Welcome to our Yale MBA for Executives Ask an EMBA panel. I'm Liz Lewis, Associate Director of Admissions for the EMBA program. Over a quick 45 minutes, our students from the class of 2025 will offer their take on their experiences throughout the first year of the program. Through them, you will learn about the mission and curriculum, but also about the details of things like travel, work, and building a community. If there are a few minutes at the end of the session, we'll open it up to your questions. You can put your questions into the chat at any time, and we'll answer those at the end of our time together. I'm now going to pass it over to our panelists. Please introduce yourself, include your name, area of focus, location, and work information. And in the tradition of our Friday morning panel of peers, or we like to call it POP session, please tell us one thing that we wouldn't learn about you on social media, LinkedIn, or by Googling you. And I think we can go alphabetically by first name. So Janitra, you're up.
Hi, everyone. I'm Janitra Taylor, class of 2025. My area of focus is asset management. And I'm currently the head of product and data at a fintech startup company, and I'm based in Philadelphia. Fun fact, or something that you wouldn't really know about me, is that I do interior designing. So not only do I do it at my own home, it's very staged like a celebrity's home, but I also do it for other people as well as like a side hustle, but it's something that I just find fun and interesting to do. And I like to do it like on a budget. So nice to meet you all.
I love that. Thanks, Janitra. Papa?
My name is Papa, and I'm in the class of 25. My area of focus is healthcare. I'm a physician and I specialize in psychiatry and addiction medicine. I'm based in St. Louis, Missouri, and I currently work and serve as the Director for Substance Use Disorders Services at Compass Health Network. Compass Health Network, where I work, is one of the largest community behavioral health organizations across the country. And as for something you'll probably not find about me in social media is I'm an artist. And maybe not so much, I don't do a lot of it these days because my life's been busy, but if you were to go back to my medical school and ask people about me, I think they'll probably remember me more as an artist in college as much as a medical student.
That's amazing, Papa. Thank you for sharing. Peter.
It's so fun to learn about each other. Hey, all, I'm Peter Kelpin, also in the class of 2025. I actually moved between areas of focus. So I started in sustainability, spent the last year in the sustainability cohort, and then I'm moving into healthcare into my second year, which I'm happy to talk about if that's a question as you all think about different concentrations. I am based in Essex, Connecticut, so I live about 30 minutes away from Yale. And I currently am the senior manager of account management for a company called Hazel Health. We provide mental health services and physical health in school districts across the United States, and I manage our revenue retention function. How appears something to know about me. You wouldn't necessarily see this on social media because I don't really post about it, but I have twin daughters, so that does count, Liz, because I don't post about them on my social media. And maybe more importantly is I am the lead cook of our house. So I run our in-house restaurant for my two children every morning and every evening. And I take a lot of passion in and take a lot of I really enjoy doing that for them, doing home cooked meals for my kids every day. So it's about me.
That's amazing. And your twins certainly count. That is such a fun and special fact. Thank you, Peter. Steph. You're muted.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Steph Luan. I am currently in the healthcare area focus as well. I live in Hamden, Connecticut, which is approximately 20 minutes away from Yale. I work at Yale New Haven Health System, which is a 5-network large academic medical center that serves as the primary teaching hospital for Yale School of Medicine and Yale School of Nursing. At Yale New Haven Health, I am a manager of ambulatory clinical pharmacy services. I've been there for about the past 7 years, and my role has really been building up our ambulatory clinical pharmacy services. And really what that means is PharmDs with additional years of residency training kind of act as mid-level providers like a nurse practitioner or a PA. They're prescribing medications, ordering labs, and having clinic and video visits with patients to help support them in their medication journeys and managing their disease state. So I've had the privilege of supporting the program to grow from 2 pharmacists about 5 years ago, all the way up to more than 70 pharmacists on our team right now. So it's really been tremendous growth. And my one fun fact, I think, was a little challenging because I tend to post maybe a little too many things on social media. But something that I thought of was I really enjoy putting together like large Lego sets. So it's just something that's so relaxing and so methodical, and you get such a wonderful end product. And for those of you who have built Legos before, you know that there's all these kind of hidden, fun, secret chambers and pieces that kind of just bring me joy. So if you want to talk about Legos ever, I'm happy to chat with you about that.
Awesome stuff. I love that so much. Steven.
Yeah, I guess last but not least, hey, it's nice to meet everyone. I'm Stephen Rainey, and I'm based out of Philadelphia, so similar to Janitra. And I'm in the asset management track. I work for a global asset manager. We are, for anyone that follows the industry, we are global macro fixed income investors. And so again, based out of Philadelphia, I've been in the industry for some time now. And I guess my fun fact is I really enjoy fantasy baseball. And I think with the advent of big data and just like data science in general, the way that you can kind of analyze fantasy baseball is very similar to the way you would analyze investments or economics. And so there's a lot of overlap there. And so it's a passion of mine that you're probably not going to find on Google. And so if anyone's interested in the topic, if you're on campus one day, always feel free to try to track me down. I'm happy to discuss.
Very cool. Thank you all so much for introducing yourselves. And now we can jump into some questions to learn a little bit more about you and your experiences in the program. I want to start by kind of thinking back to when you were in the shoes of some of our attendees here today. So let's start from the beginning. Please tell us about your experience considering and applying to programs and your decisions to get your MBA at Yale SOM. What were some of the things you may have felt a bit anxious or unsure about? And maybe we can go reverse alphabetical order. So Stephen, maybe we'll go back to you, and then we'll go back around the room here. Stephen.
Yeah, happy to kick it off here. So I'm very interested in the topic of business, investment management, things along those lines. I previously studied behavioral economics. It's a topic I really enjoy. And so I guess I was a little anxious coming in thinking about like, if I have such kind of narrow interest, will I be able to find joy and even just, be able to focus in some areas that I think may not pertain to my level of interest, right? And I couldn't have been more wrong. All of the topics, especially if you're interested in business, all of the topics really overlap in some way, shape, or form. And there have been there's been almost 0 classes where I haven't sat there and said, wow, like that was incredible. Like I feel like I am more knowledgeable after doing it. And so I would think the academic side, I was a little worried about like, will I actually find interest in this broad range? And I couldn't have been more wrong.
Thank you. Steph? Answering that Lego question right now.
Oh, I'd be happy to. So someone asked a question, have you done the Hogwarts Lego set? And so yes, I've built the castle as well as Diagon Alley, the Hogwarts Express, and I'm halfway through the newest set that they just released this past year.
That's awesome. So how about your experience, Steph, in considering the program?
Absolutely. So I really only looked at Yale for EMBA programs. I have a mentor who used to be my manager when I first started working at Yale New Haven Health, who was completing the program at the time. I was doing my second year of pharmacy residency, and I had an academia and leadership learning experience with him. And he just had such wonderful things to say about his classmates, about the program, about all of the opportunities. And I'm someone who really enjoys learning, and it just seemed like such a almost magical experience where the professors had been so supportive, so wonderful, that I really wanted to look into it and learn more. I think another thing for me was the proximity. There are so many additional opportunities for students who live close to Yale, where you can take additional elective courses. There are speakers who come in regularly to talk to the class. I think I got to come and see Indra Nooyi from, who was the former CEO of PepsiCo, come and speak. So really so many incredible opportunities to get involved when you live locally. From the moment that I came to my first open house day, I really knew that this was going to be a great fit for me. Just the description of the program, the opportunity to have a healthcare focus area. I knew that I would be able to enhance kind of my healthcare leadership skills while also building that important foundation, and also learning from colleagues who are in the asset management and sustainability areas of focus. When you're in healthcare, you tend to be very kind of focused and almost have tunnel vision about this is the way we as a healthcare professional approach a problem. And through this program so far, I can certainly attest that it's true. I've learned so much about how others from other industry sectors of work approach a similar problem. And it's really helped me to advance kind of my skills as well. So I will say some of the reasons were definitely proximity, my mentor's experience, and then the opportunity to have kind of a diverse class with healthcare opportunities.
Thank you. Peter, how about your experience being in our audience's shoes?
Yeah, I think the Q&A question kind of queued up what I was going to talk about really nicely. So as I was considering the Yale experience, and I will say similarly to Steph, because of proximity, I knew that Yale was number one on my list. And I'll say secondarily, I do want to say like business and society is something that was a real interest and focus area for me, is understanding the intersection of about how for-profit industries have net positive impact on society as they think about their work was core to me. But as I was considering the MBA, we found out my wife was pregnant with twins. And I will say that certainly introduced a lot of doubt as I thought about my ability to take on this program. And kind of the way that I thought through that hesitancy, and I think is a helpful frame for folks that are considering this program, is it is impossible to do everything in this program. I will say that very transparently. And I think we'll touch on this later, but one of the ways that I thought about my hesitancy was being incredibly direct about what I wanted to get out of this experience from a value perspective. And then also being willing to be nimble with that approach as I kind of introduced myself into the program and got to know people and got to know different opportunities. But I will say, like, if you are hesitant right now about managing work-life balance, what I will say is that hesitancy is not misplaced. It is certainly a factor as you think about your experience. But what's important is to think about what are the factors that I can control from an execution perspective, and knowing, can I show up as my full self at work in doing this program? And then also, what is the latitude of support that I have across the organization that I'm operating in to make sure like I can get what I need to get done from an MBA perspective? And then also really understanding like what's the flip side of that? Like what's the value that I'm going to bring back to my organization? And then I will say, like, understanding your limitations from an other priorities in life perspective. Like I have a block of 7 to 10 p.m. every day where my children are asleep, where I can execute on work. And sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But just knowing like at the end of the day, like the most important thing is you're going to get out of this what you put into it. And also, everything is graded on a curve. So we can talk about that in more depth, but also understanding that, you can ebb and flow as you go through the program to make your life's balance make sense.
Papa?
So for me, considering the program, there were multiple areas where I felt I needed to be ready to start the program. And I had to address all of it. For example, I have a family. I have 2 daughters and a son, and 2 teenage daughters and a younger son. And then my wife is there. She's also a physician. So we have busy lives. And it's always been our priority to make sure that we never neglect our family, and we're always present for our kids and for each other. So that was a major consideration for me, that if I'm going to jump into this, I needed to make sure there was a healthy balance. I'm able to maintain the balance between my family, my work, and now my education. So that was something I needed to make sure I struck that balance. So one way to do that was to get my wife involved, earlier on, executive assessment, like the entire process. So no surprises. If there were some critical areas, some questions, we worked through it together. I was still doing that in the program. Another thing was I needed to make sure that financially I could handle it without jeopardizing my family's financial situation or financial balance. As a physician, I have worked for several years, so I felt like I was in a position where I could go ahead with this. So those were challenges. I needed to make sure that I factored everything in. I could see at the beginning that by the end of the program, I was going to be able to be financially viable. And then I also had to make sure that there was something at the end of it that was worth the financial investment, apart from time investment. And another thing was, this is a very prestigious program, and it attracts the best students. And we can all testify to that. My classmates, about 72 of us, like top notch. I needed to make sure that I'm able to be present and to be able to be part of this team. I did not want a case where my workload as a full-time physician, working sometimes upward of 50 hours a week, will make it impossible for me to be present in the program. So I needed to make sure upfront I worked through the logistics with my employers, my family, and myself in a way that I will not compromise my earning power while I was doing my EMBA. So that was another thing I put into consideration. But most importantly, one thing that motivated me to do an MBA is the critical role of the business world in healthcare in America. And personally, I know that as a clinician, as a physician, we are trained in the clinical aspects of medicine, but we have very limited training in the business aspect of medicine. I've been motivated to go into this to be able to navigate both worlds, but it's very important to me that I strike that balance between business knowledge and clinical competence. I did not want a program that will take me too far away that I will forget my role as a clinician. So I wanted to be able to strike that balance, and those were the things that I really considered in choosing a program. Once I lined them up like this, it was easy to make a decision.
Thank you. And Janitra.
So for me, my undergrad, I have 2 undergrad degrees in business. And so when I always thought about getting my MBA, I spoke to a lot of my mentors, and they told me to wait until I was could qualify for an executive MBA program. They thought that I would gain more knowledge in that. So that I kind of already knew I wanted to go the executive MBA route. Then I wanted to start looking for schools. And one of my close colleagues actually recommended Yale to me. And so Yale was actually the first school on my list that I went to for an info session. And after that info session, I didn't go to any other schools to visit. And it's really because I really enjoyed two things. My mom came with me to visit the campus, and the admissions team was just so nice to my mom, even when I wasn't around. Like they got her like lunch, like just very like just like family oriented, and that like really counted for me. As well as I enjoyed the classes that I attended that day and felt like I was learning more than just business. It really is teaching you to take what you know to another level of how you can actually be a executive. And for me, my goal is to be a CEO. So I really wanted to learn from the best, but also be surrounded by some really good classmates as well. And so I like that the program was small. Like Papa said, there's only 72 of us, and we really do know each other. And we have a big WhatsApp chat group as well, where we chat with each other all the time. And that was also important to me because, you know, at this level, you're really also gaining a lot from the network. And so really being able to network with your classmates to me is like key. Yes, we're in class, but like we do a lot of things outside of the classroom together in smaller groups, larger groups. And that was really important to me to just be able to be in an environment where I could truly be myself. And I felt like this past year I've been able to be my true authentic self, and Yale really allows that. Regarding like just like things I was anxious about, I mean, it's Yale. So, I mean, there's like imposter syndrome. I'm like, am I going to get into this place? Once I got in, I'm like, are these people like 10 times smarter than me and I'm going to be the dumbest in class? Like, and then you realize after 2 weeks, they're like, oh no, everyone has imposter syndrome. And you realize that really quickly because once again, it's a small cohort, so we all have real, authentic conversations with one another. So that to me was like the big thing is just more around like imposter syndrome, and then also making sure that I could execute at my job. I had just started a new job, so as I was applying for Yale, I was starting my new job. So that was a balance as well. And I kind of leveraged the application process where I took time dedicated throughout the weeks to study for the EA and to do my essays. I kind of took that as like practicing of me going back to school, where I had to say no to going out with my friends sometimes so I could focus on studying. So I think that helped prepare me a little bit for the real life environment here at Yale. And it's something I would suggest as well, because it kind of helps you kind of zone in and focus, and also helps your family and friends zone in and focus of like, you're not going to always be as successful as you were prior. So that was the things I was anxious about.
Great, thank you, Janitra. So let's turn our attention a little bit to the commute and what traveling to New Haven for the program is like. Some of our panelists and some of our students are certainly a bit more local, but we have a lot of students in the program who do travel in by planes and trains and to get here for the program. So Papa and Janitra are two of those students. So for the two of you that have traveled some distance to Evans Hall, the home of Yale SOM, let's talk about the logistics, both of getting to New Haven and making time for not only class, but for travel. How did you factor this into your decision to choose Yale SOM? What is it really like? Challenges or easy pieces that might look hard from the outside? So Papa or Janitra, who wants to start? Papa, you're up. Oh, sorry, Janitra.
Go ahead.
So I take the train. I take Amtrak. It is 3.5 hour ride. The first time I took it, I did fall asleep and literally almost missed my stop and lost my cell phone. So please, please avoid that. That just shows you how long it was. It was not a good day. I'll tell you that. I landed in New Haven and literally had to go get a new cell phone. Not a fun experience. It hasn't happened again since. But what I noticed is, and because of that, it was a lesson learned. What I was trying to do is I come in on Thursday nights. The program starts 9 a.m. on Fridays. And so I was trying to do a full work day, and I wasn't getting on a train at 6, 7 o'clock at night. And so that's why I fell asleep, because I was just exhausted. So I actually changed up my schedule, and now I catch like the 3:30 train, either 3 p.m. or 3:30. And I take my like 3 to 5 o'clock meetings from Amtrak. So like just that little like change, it helped because now I'm in New Haven by 7 p.m. I'm able to like drop my stuff off. I'm able to go out to dinner with some of my classmates, and then I'm also able to like study the night before. So I would say it's definitely, if you can, try to get in the night before unless you are very local. But if you can, I would definitely get in the night before just so you're well rested. And also, I just feel like by the time you hit New Haven, you're able to just kind of like switch off from work to like school mode. And so coming in that day earlier, like come 7 o'clock, I'm like, I'm in school mode. And so I'm able to kind of ignore other things that's going on in my life. And I know like I have that Thursday night to do maybe last minute reading, or, you know, just to rest, just from being exhausted from the work week. And the other thing I will tell you that a student told me when I came to visit for the interview process is if you take the trains, try to buy your tickets in advance. So the program does a really good job at like telling you every like your entire schedule for the next 2 years. So you know exactly when you're going to be on campus. It makes a big difference. I'm able to get like round trip tickets for like $40. But if I wait last minute, then I'm paying like $200. So definitely try to buy that ahead of time. I went in when I got into Yale, and I guess I found out in May, and I purchased all my tickets up to December on purpose. And so I'll probably be going back in like a couple weeks to buy the rest of them up now to December as well. So that's one little token I will share.
Great advice. Thank you. Papa.
So for me, during the admissions process, my options came down to two schools. And I was comparing them side by side, and I realized that the only issue I had with Yale was there was no nonstop flight from St. Louis to New Haven. You know, and that was the only issue I had, and I had to overcome that. And one way I did that was I actually reframed it. I saw that I've heard so many things about Yale, but I've never really heard anyone complaining they can't get to Yale. You know, so there are so many people here. So I worked out a couple of options on how to make it here and came to Yale, and I'm glad I did so. In terms of travel, 1 year into the program, my frame is different and my viewpoint is different. I actually see Yale's location more of an advantage. I see it as a place that has multiple entry points, you know, and I have never missed a class because maybe I missed a flight. I normally come in by air. I leave on Thursday evening. Classes are Friday morning, from Friday morning to Saturday afternoon at 3 p.m. That's the class weekend. I leave St. Louis after work on Thursday and get to New Haven. So one route I commonly take is I go through Hartford Airport, BDL, and then I take an Uber or Lyft. I always kind of price compare. I get something $50, $60 range for the Uber, and in 45 minutes, I'm at my hotel. That was my route for a long time. Then I had like flight disruptions, and I discovered I could just go to New York, take a non-stop flight to New York, and then come through Amtrak, or take an Uber, or take the Yale shuttle. There's a Yale shuttle that goes to JFK and LaGuardia, like hourly, several times a day. So there are just so many options to get there. You can come in through Hartford Airport, LaGuardia, New Jersey, and Newark Airport, JFK, and you can rent a car. You can take the shuttle. So there are just so many options. As a result of that, if I'm having a flight delay that is unreasonable, I just book another flight and go towards another direction. I have always made it to class in time. I never have a sense like I will be stranded and not be able to make it to class. So that's how it's been for me. And sometimes you can carpool with your colleagues or share an Uber. But for me, at the end of the day, it's not really been a problem. I've always been able to make it to class when I want to make it to class on my own terms. And if there's a flight cancellation, because I travel a lot, I always use the credits for the next flight.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing all of those options with our audience to consider. So let's talk a bit about the EMBA community and what it means to be a member of this community. So we often hear students say that they learn just as much from their classmates as they do from the curriculum and the professors. Please share who makes up this community. Who are your classmates and your learning teams? And what reflections epitomize your overall experience of the community and culture? What would you say is the ethos of the Yale SOM EMBA program? Stephen, you want to jump into that one?
Yeah, happy to start here. So I believe that when thinking about the community, and if we think about it from outside of just the professors, like you mentioned, there's kind of two dimensions to it. I think the first dimension is you're in a learning group, and you have your classmates, and you just have this like diverse group of individuals that all have some kind of expertise in something, and it seems like everyone kind of shares a similarity in regards to like being really intellectually curious about a topic. And so this first community, that first dimension, is your like classmates in your learning group. And then the learning group specifically, the way it's crafted is you have members from different cohorts or different tracks. So like my learning team right now has people from asset management, healthcare, and sustainability. And you're just able to like, it creates such a diverse group that you have so many different perspectives, and you're able to learn from all these different people, and that it's a really interesting community. The second dimension, I would say, is the actual like Yale community itself, which I think is fantastic. And the way that I like to kind of think about that is you've got the on-campus community and the off-campus community. So I love trying to be as involved as possible with things going on in campus. My learning group would go and do things like we went to the Philharmonic one night to see a show. I like going over to the library. There's a huge Ben Franklin collection there. Like you can kind of like meet some of the Ben Franklin scholars and like pick their brain. It's like it's a very open community, and you're just a part of it, and you're welcome, and it's fantastic. And then that outside community, just to kind of finalize here, is I would say the alumni group. So I'm in Philadelphia, and I actually come through New York most of the time on Thursdays and try to connect with a lot of Yale alumni, because it's a pretty central location where there's a lot of Yale alumni. And that group, that community is fantastic. You're able to kind of reach out to people, and everyone's very welcoming and accepting, and you can, get coffee, get lunch, just learn about other people's experience. And so it's a fantastic community. And to answer that last question about like what would be the ethos of the Yale SOM EMBA program, I'll probably be repetitive here, but I think the ethos is that the common thread is that intellectual curiosity. It's very rare to find someone here that's not intellectually curious about something.
You'll be part of that amazing alumni community soon enough.
Yes.
Peter.
Yeah, Stephen hit on a lot of really good points. So I'll just add a couple of thoughts. Someone asked in the channel, like, does travel take away from the on-campus experience? And I think I'll just share, like, as you're considering this program, what I would think about is the Yale SOM community is absolutely like local and global. And in terms of leveraging the local, the one thing to think about is you actually have access to every single thing that is happening at the Yale School of Management, like period. So like being a part of the MBA for executives gives you a key to anything that's happening on campus. I will say, like, I'm local, so I had a little bit of benefit of being able to pre-plan and think about being able to participate in opportunities that were on campus. So I participated in an impact investing group. I was part of the education club on campus, and I came into Yale thinking, because I live locally, I can take advantage of these opportunities on campus. What I'll say that I learned is, if you are not local, all it takes to become involved in any of those groups is to just make a direct ask. No one is managing these groups. No one is saying that if you're not on campus, you can't be a part of a group. So it's really just about, making the ask. So I think like that's something to think about, is being a part of the SOM community means being able to leverage, all of the individuals that are also in school at the same time too. I've had great opportunities learning from folks in the executive MBA program, folks in the full-time MBA program, folks in the Masters of Advanced Management program. It's been great to kind of build like a cross-campus community as well. So that's kind of the only other thing I'd add to Stephen. And I would say like the other thing is just like double clicking on the alumni network. And I was prompted to apply to SOM by a local alumni in my town who thought it'd be a great fit. So I think just like knowing that group will always exist for you as you go through the program.
Love that. Thank you, Peter. Papa, anything to add about the community?
Yeah, very briefly. The sense of community for me started at the interview because it was a group interview, unlike some other interviews I had where it was just me showing up to be interviewed alone. So I felt a sense of connection to other candidates, EMBA candidates, even before the program started. And if there's one thing that influenced me in coming to Yale, I think that was it. In the sense that I already felt so connected to my classmates as well as the admissions team, who were very responsive to any question, inquiry, or anything I had. And it has remained so. Now, in the first year of the program, another thing I must say is the diversity of the class helps a lot. I'm a physician. There are some of the topics that we've done that I had never done before, like accounting, but I ended up doing very well in and understanding very well because I listened to my classmates who are like accountants or people in the business area ask questions, and I listen to the answers. Each class session is very unique because we have top-notch professors. But what makes it even more unique is the questions and answers, the back and forth with the classroom. If we're talking about investment and I hear Stephen ask a question, I don't want to listen to that question. And one thing that has helped me a lot, all our class sessions are recorded. I go back and listen to them. And after I read up more, I listen to them. Every aspect of the class makes sense. The questions are so meaningful and they are so helpful. And they've helped me with my personal knowledge and growth in the past year.
Thank you. And that is the perfect segue into our next question. Peter, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one thing, building off of what Papa's saying. I think the other thing to realize about the SOM community, particularly the MBA for Executives program, is everyone is living their lives outside of the program as well. And I think there's an incredible amount of value in recognizing the diversity of talent that people are bringing to their personal lives. We had a classmate who recently went through a layoff, which people are facing right now. And I will just say, like, being witness to the grit that person showed going through that and leveraging the SOM network was incredible and really like powerful for me as I thought about, personal like future planning. So I just think there's a lot of value in like understanding that aspect of the community as well.
Absolutely. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about academics. So you've just completed your first year in Yale SOM's integrated core curriculum. For our audience, these courses are taught from the organizational stakeholder perspective rather than by business function, and the core is unique to Yale SOM. What have been the biggest lessons learned through this curriculum? Steph.
Yes, so I've really enjoyed this curriculum since starting at Yale. I mentioned I have a healthcare background, so when you go to school to be a pharmacist, you don't necessarily learn a ton about economics and the customer perspective and operations of a cranberry factory. But I think that the case-based method that Yale leverages in these classes was incredibly helpful for me because it took real-world examples and then it broke them apart to apply some of the lessons that we had learned. Like, for example, in our customer class, thinking about how any changes that we would make in an organization, how can we make sure that they're customer focused and how we can make sure that the customer is considered and it's not just what the managers think would be a good product or service. I think in our modeling managerial decisions class, we talked a lot about applying different types of frames or perspectives to a problem, and that your immediate idea for what might be a solution or a great way to fix something might not be the best solution. And it's important to take a step back and look at it through maybe a legal frame or a customer perspective frame or things like that. But having those experiences, learning about, I think it was Power and Politics, about Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, how he really transformed that organization coming in as CEO, and kind of learning from those experiences and having the professors help you and your class engage in discussion about how have you had similar experiences in your roles has been really incredibly helpful. I think some classes that I didn't appreciate how much they would help me before I took them were things like state and society, where you're learning about how different government actors and different stakeholders play really key roles in everything that we try to do in terms of new initiatives or new programs. And then I think the other thing that I really learned was kind of alluded to previously, but just trying to make sure that we can get all of our homework done before we get to New Haven for the weekend. That was really important to me because, like Janitra says, when you're done with work on Thursday evening, you want to switch into that school mode. And like Papa said, we have 72 wonderful classmates who all have such incredible attributes and great things that we can learn from. So I want to spend all of my time on that class weekend really present in the moment. I want to go out to dinner on Friday evenings with my classmates. I don't necessarily want to be finishing up a paper at midnight and then not being super well rested for class on Saturday. So I think that was something that was really important for me. And something I learned pretty early on in terms of how to manage academics.
Thank you, Steph. Janitra.
So for me, it was a different perspective coming to the program because I'm like, I have business degrees, I work in financial services. I'm like, okay, like what I was trying to look to see like what would I gain out of my first year. I really thought for me, I'm like, I'm going to gain a lot of experience in year 2 when I get into my like area of focus. And it was it's been the opposite. What I will tell you is like it really helped me identify opportunities where I need to grow as a leader throughout the different classes. And it's from, like Steph said, some of those cases where they talk about CEOs and where they have messed up and where others have done really well. And you're like, oh, I don't want to identify as one of those. It also helped really just hearing from classmates and how they might have solved an issue differently than I would have. We had a class called Workforce. And initially when I saw Workforce, I was like, HR, like I'm just going to hire an HR person. And it was like, no, it's like as an executive, how are you going to manage your actual workforce? And there are certain situations where I realized maybe I am too nice. I would have kept someone around longer where I should cut my losses a little bit earlier based off of different things. So that was like good for me to understand as a leader and change. And the piece that I really enjoyed this year is just really tapping into that business and society. So like, yes, I come from business world and I am very much about the dollar and the bottom line and how much is this going to make and how much is this going to cost me. But Yale has also taught me the flip side. That's like, you care about the money, but like also how is this going to impact society? And I felt like that was pulled in through a lot of our classes and really helped someone like me who's on the asset management track. I'm not on the sustainability track, but it kind of helps someone like me to just better understand decisions I'm making. What are the long-term impacts that's going to have on society? What about the community surrounding the company that I may be working with? And how is that going to play out as well? And so for me, that was extremely vital because, you know, as part of my missions and part of my letter to Yale, why I wanted to come to Yale was like, I don't want to just be a CEO. I want to be like a great CEO, like one that you like talk about for years, like the Jamie Dimons of the world. And so I felt like Yale has been able to tap in to say, here's that emotional intelligence that you need to, you know, turn up a little bit more to get you to that piece. And then just one little thing I saw someone asked a question around academics, how many hours do we spend? So everyone's different. For me, I block out, we go to Yale every other weekend. So for me, the weekends that I don't go to Yale, those are like blocked off as like my days to like just really zone in to get a lot of stuff done. So if we have take home finals, I'll make sure I'm doing it during one of those days. If it's like a paper or a big project, I try to tap into those days as my days to get something done. So I don't make like a lot of plans. It may just be like more like I'm going to be with my family type of thing if I do anything, but that is typically what I would say. Like I have a block of time. And then the other thing is like, if you do have to study, like let's just say sometimes it does happen where you may have a couple of different finals at times. What I found good for me is that I was dedicate like an hour or two a day that week that things were going to be heavy. And I actually started to flip it to the mornings. I used to do in the evenings. I'm more of a night person versus the evening person, but making it in the evenings made it better because coming off of work in the evenings, you're just exhausted. So it really just depends on your schedule, your family, how's that going to work for you all? But I think making sure no matter what, you have dedicated time where you're like, this is my time to get work done is going to be really impactful. And then also making sure there are times where you have, this is my time off. For me, it's the Sunday after we come back from Yale. I don't actually go into our Yale chat group. I don't look at emails from Yale. I don't do homework from Yale. That is like my day to recover. So everyone's just different, but just finding your balance. And I would say it takes the first couple months to find your balance.
Great. Thank you so much for answering that question. And on that note, we do have some more questions in the Q&A, so I want to get to those, but I'm going to throw out one final question for all of our panelists. Maybe you can just take a very quick minute to each answer this question. So what is the one piece of advice, best practice, or something you wish you knew earlier that you'd like to share with the audience that may help shape their experience as applicants and potential members of the SOM community? Janitra, why don't you go ahead since you were just talking, and then Peter will go to you.
I think the biggest takeaway is you can't do it all by yourself. There's a reason they put us in these learning teams. They still have not shared the magic of how they create these teams. I'm going to figure this out by the time I graduate. But they have not shared how they put us all together. But what you'll realize in your learning teams, like Steven said, yes, we're all from different areas of focus in the group. But what you'll find out is in each class that you go through, there's at least one person in your group that's probably the strongest in that class. And so it's okay if it's not you, right? And for me, for someone that was part of asset management, I was like, I should be the strongest for all the quant classes. That did not happen. I was more stronger in like the leadership classes and like the product classes and customer classes. That was like my niche. So I think that's the big takeaway is that in the beginning, I took a lot of that on thinking that like I have to know everything and I should do all this by myself. It's going to cause you a lot more stress and anxiety. That's like the program's not set up for you that way. And so it's as if you can really try to rely on your learning teams earlier on and really try to trust that like just because you don't know everyone yet, but try to trust like they may know what they're talking about. Maybe I should listen. That would have helped me earlier on not to be as stressed. And it's something that I would definitely recommend to you all is like we have a learning team. There's 6 of us. Rely on everyone when you can because a lot happens in 2 years. We have had people who have gotten married. We have had people who have kids. Like we met Peter's twins during residency. We have had people who have changed jobs and people who have like lost their parents just in this first year. So a lot happens to us. And so you really do need your learning team to help you get through that whole year.
Yeah, couldn't agree with the learning team piece enough. Steph is on my learning team and she knows that I became a less tired person over time in the first year with twins. My very like clear piece of advice is this is a huge commitment to make, both financially, personally, time-wise, just period. It's a huge commitment. So as you're thinking about applying, be incredibly deliberate with yourself and with your community about why does this make sense for me? Literally create a plan. Say if I am joining Yale on day 1 in July, what do I have to have accomplished by day 365 for me to feel like this first year was worthwhile for me? And truly map that out, understand who are the levers that are going to make that successful for you and get a real understanding of that. Because what I will say is if you don't have that clarity going into the application process, you will not do as well as on your interviews. And then if you don't have that clarity going into residency, it will be really hard to understand how do I make this work for me, and it'll feel draining. But if you know that this is what success looks like day 365, even if that changes, which is fine and great and wonderful because you're going to learn a lot from each other, you'll have a roadmap that you can work against to say like, this is why I'm doing this every week, because it will be hard. It will be tiring. You will feel like you've put everything into it and you're not always getting 100% out, which is everything in life. But having that roadmap is really important as you take the step. So that would be super concise advice for folks. Really understand why you want to do this.
Thank you. Steph, Papa, Steven, do you want to give a very quick piece of advice?
Absolutely. So my very quick piece of advice is in terms of balancing work, school, and home, which was a question in the Q&A. preparing as much as you can ahead of time and setting very clear expectations with work and home. So I personally tried to delegate everything humanly possible at work and teach others how to do things that I could delegate to them. So by the time the program started, I could really take it optimal advantage of all of the opportunities. I could delve into electives. I could delve into coming on site to see speakers. I stopped doing work outside of work and clearly communicated this to my boss that I need these 2 years to really be all in on my education, because like Peter said, it's a significant commitment. My husband and I talked at length about how are we going to manage this in terms of making sure that we're maintaining our relationship, we're both eating, and our house is not a mess. So we established kind of a bi-weekly date night to make sure we always go out to eat every other Friday when it's not a class weekend, to make sure that we're dedicating time to us. And so just trying to be as prepared as possible and making it really clear to everyone that you will have a lot less time to devote to work and to family, but it's an investment in your future, and that's important. And then the other tiny piece of advice I'll say is there are really amazing AI reader technologies such as Speechify and Natural Reader that can read your notes to you. And most of our notes that we have to read ahead of class are PDFs. So you can upload that PDF and it will read it to you in 2 to 3 times or more. I can't handle more than 3 times speed. And that helps me get through reading so quickly. I think without that, I would struggle to finish all of the readings, but they're so helpful to, especially with someone without a business background, to give you that background information to prepare you for lecture. So those are my 2 very quick tips of advice.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I think my peers have given great answers, and I second everything they said.
For me, one thing I'll quickly say is plan. Be deliberate about planning. Have a broad plan, and then be ready to adapt it when necessary. For me, like example of a broad plan is we have 2 weeks between each class, minimum of 2 weeks. The first week after class, take care of my assignments, any homework I need to do. And the second week before the next class, do my readings to prepare for the next class. Was I always successful doing it? No, but that was my broad plan. And I always adapted it, and I'll be able to recognize when I was kind of falling behind and make sure I catch up. That helped me a lot. Be strategic in using the resources available. For example, we have extended classroom where you're able to attend class remotely. If I find a situation where the non-class weekend, I'm going to be busy, it's sometimes best for me to do an extended classroom this weekend, because that way I'm done with classes by 2 p.m. on Saturday, and I still have a almost full weekend ahead of me to study and to do things I need to do. So be strategic about it. One last thing I would like to also encourage is take advantage of the recordings of our class sessions. They are very helpful. That's something that has helped me a lot to get real great understanding of core concepts. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think we have time for one question that I actually saw pop up a few times in a few different ways about joining clubs or centers, taking classes outside of SOM. Does anyone have any insight into this or know any of your classmates that utilize these things? Peter.
I can speak to this a little bit, and then I think other folks in the call may have been a part of other clubs. I would say like every single club at SOM is open to you. Again, is really about personal advocacy and saying, I want to do this. I participated in 2 clubs. I did Education Club, which organizes an annual conference for educators across the Northeast. And then I also did the Hmong Impact Investing Fund, which was a new organization across all of Yale's graduate community this year. And it was making small cap investments in super early stage companies. Outside of that, like the EMBA asset management and actually cross-disciplinary team like led the entire impact investing conference. I will say like fabulously, like multiple members of our class, both local to Connecticut and not local, organized that conference top down and executed on that conference. And it was actually truly magical to see on the other side, just like how much effort and work went into it. And then I would say like the rest of Yale's campus is totally open to you. And in your second semester, so after your fall semester, you can actually take classes at other graduate colleges. So you can take a class at the law school. We know someone in our cohort who took a class in the law school and was very proud of passing her law school class and saying, I went to Yale Law School for at least one class. I will say those classes are predicated, and I put this in the chat. You do need to be in person for classes that are outside of the EMBA core. And that's relatively, actually, I think totally non-negotiable. So just knowing that, and like if you're local enough to be able to make that, you can do that for sure. And they do not cost anything. So they are a part of your tuition. I think, Liz, you tell me if I'm wrong.
Yes, thank you. Anything else to quickly add before we're done today?
I'll add that I took a personal finance elective, and it was honestly incredible. There's actually a YouTube video by the professor, James Choi, that gives kind of a brief summary of what that class is about. But coming from a healthcare background, I knew nothing about what I should be doing with my 403B plan and investing and all of that. And I learned so much, and it's all data driven. So there's so many kind of cool classes like that you can leverage for your experiences.
Yeah, I was just say one last thing, like to be on campus for these. I know a lot of our classmates actually switch from doing hotels to either like renting apartments. And so this way, especially like I work from home, but if you work from home or if you're able to like kind of leave your job earlier, a lot of people will come up maybe like Wednesday so they could take a class on Thursday. So you also like can like start to tease out different options of like how early you get to campus as well. And there's a lot of people who are not local that are actually doing that, and like the price is still coming out the same as what they would spend in their hotel. So there's so many, if you're not local, there's still a way to like join class if you wanted to.
Absolutely, very true. Peter, did you have something to add?
Just gonna say one interesting like net benefit that I think to think about is after you graduate, I do believe you can audit classes at Yale for free for the rest of your natural life. So don't laugh at me, Janitra. You could be an 85-year-old really interested in taking a personal finance class and audit it. So I do think that is a really cool benefit. And as you can see, we love each other here. We're all laughing at each other. So it's a great community to join.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're just at time here. We're a bit over time. So thank you so much to our panelists, the class of 2025. I'm so excited to see you back on campus soon. I really hope you all enjoy your Global Network Week experiences next week. And thank you to everyone who attended our webinar today. I hope you got a lot out of hearing from our panelists on their first year of the program. Any additional questions, please reach out to emba.admissions@yale.edu, and we are here to answer those questions for you. Thank you so much again, and we'll see you soon.